Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
We are living in the most hyper-partisan, polarized political times, maybe in United States history. And I think the Donald Trump travel ban is a perfect illustration of this. Now, the television news would have you believe that this is Donald Trump's doing. I would argue differently, that this is the television news media's doing. But let's just break this down. Now, this is a very complex situation that we're dealing with. This is not a black and white issue, which is one of the big problems that people are dealing with when trying to cover Donald Trump. They look at everything through a black and white lens, missing the gray areas. Now, before I talk about the travel ban and everything that happened after Donald Trump announced it, I want to wind the clocks back. Let's try to get a hold on the overarching picture here. Now, this is a story out of New Jersey in 2015. And in 2014, Brandon Tevlin was murdered. Brandon Tevlin's accused killers, charges dropped against two, third indicted on terrorism. Ali Muhammad Brown, who is an admitted Muslim, told investigators after his arrest in July that he had killed Tevlin and a trio of men in the Seattle area as vengeance for lives lost due to U.S. military action in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and other parts of the Islamic world. He was quoted saying, "All these lives are taken every single day by America, by this government, so a life for a life." Again, this is actually from 2015. So here's the thing. We have been talking about the United States foreign policy and interfering in the Middle East and the wrongdoings that have been going on there for a long time. We've been on the right side of history here. Now, so you can sit here and try to justify, perhaps, that's what this murderer is doing, justifying his actions by the United States interference overseas. So if there are people who are mad at us overseas who hate our way of life because of the wrongdoings we've done over there, don't you think that they might want to come here and try to commit acts of evil? Isn't that what we've been trying to fight against for so long? Now, the story goes on and it talks about how Brown shot the guy 8 times with 2 other men, and the other men have gotten away. So we don't know what happened to them. So we don't know if this is some other thing going on or if this is just a lone wolf. But the point is, people from these regions have beefs with the United States government, folks, okay? And they want to kill innocent American citizens. So now let's get to the travel ban. And again, this is just an absolute twister of information to try to hash this all out. So Donald Trump issues the travel ban. He goes off the 7 states that Barack Obama is actually the one who said that these were the states where terrorists might try to come here. But guess what? The left freaks out at Donald Trump for going through with Obama's actual 7 countries listed as terrorists who might want to come here. But again, it goes back to our terrible foreign policies of the Bush administration and beyond that Donald Trump called out for a long time. So this has been a long time coming. Now, they're saying that Donald Trump's travel ban is not going to do anything to stop terror attacks in the United States. Well, here's the thing about that. There's a couple things about that, but they go on, they say, oh, well, there's never been any terrorists that came to the United States from these countries. Well, that's not exactly true. There have been terrorists that traveled throughout those countries and ended up back here. That doesn't mean they just came directly from that country or were an immigrant from that country, but they constantly cite nobody ever coming from Somalia. But that's not true. The OSU shooter, the Ohio State shooter, Artan, came from Somalia. So there you go. But look at what's going on in Europe. That's what the people aren't seeing. Donald Trump is trying to avoid what has already happened in Europe with their open border policy. But here's the thing, folks. The protesters aren't complaining about the fact that Donald Trump hasn't stopped people traveling in from Saudi Arabia. The protesters aren't complaining that Saudi Arabia could easily take maybe not all the refugees, but probably 1 million of these refugees from these war-torn countries who have been working hand in hand with the leadership in the United States to tear that region apart. But again, the protesters are not going to protest that. Now, here's an also development, kind of a side note here. CNN, and they're now running with this time and time again, is now admitting that the 9/11 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. This is something that has been ignored by the mainstream media for over a decade now, and now finally they want to talk about it. But again, so if it's not people who hate, and I'm just trying to wrap my mind around their logic, if it's not people who hate the United States that are traveling here, so that's Islamophobic. The travel ban doesn't work because nobody's trying to travel here. Nobody in the Middle East hates us. Okay, so let's go with the leftist logic, apparently that is. Well, then why are these terrorist attacks happening? It must be religious. So now what are you? An Islamophobe? See, the liberal logic, it's like a hamster in a wheel. They're going to keep running and running and running, but they're never going to get anywhere. But let's try to move on. Now, Barack Obama says that American values are at stake, and he's actually heartened by the resistance to Donald Trump. Now, I find this, again, terribly ironic, folks. If I go out on the streets, what happens to me? Protesters scream at me, telling me I'm a white male and that my opinion needs to be silenced because that's what American values have been, right? It's just the white male. That's the American values that need to go. Oh, but wait. Here they are complaining that the American values are at stake because of Donald Trump. So what? I'm just confused. Is it the white male American values? Are you standing up for them now? Or are you saying there's too many white males, we need to bring everyone in here from a different country? I don't know what they're saying. I don't think they know what they're saying. They just want to go protest. So they're upset that American values are at stake, but they hate the American values that apparently are nothing but white males. Again, this is just the liberal logic. Now, where to go? I'm telling you, folks, this whole thing is crazy. Now, here's the other thing about this. If you look at the polls, it's a clear support of Donald Trump in the travel ban. It's not even close. Rasmussen poll, clear majority of Americans support Trump's travel ban. Rasmussen poll finds 57% of Americans support Trump's travel ban. Only 33% oppose the measure. And that's actually pretty close to the overall shape of Trump's approval right now. He's getting about a 57% approval rating as of right now. That's actually on the rise, and about a 37% disapproval rate. But you know what? Here's the other thing that nobody wants to talk about. The world is in a state of emergency, okay? Donald Trump recognizes that. Donald Trump isn't sitting around here acting like everything is okay, everything is awesome. Donald Trump realizes what's going on. So he's going to have to take some drastic measures, folks. Whether you like the travel ban or not, he's taking drastic measures because he realizes that we are truly in a state of emergency. Why do we have all these refugees? Because the Middle East is in a state of emergency. Why is Europe being completely torn down by refugees? Well, because they have an open border policy. So Donald Trump is actually trying to address these things before they reach our home front. Whether you like that or not is up to you, but that is the reality of the measure. And when the mainstream media tries to tell you, well, he's racist or he's like Hitler, this, that, and another thing, give me a break, folks. This is a state of emergency. Donald Trump is trying to do something about all the chaos and all the corruption that we're seeing in the world. Now, of course, on the heels of all this, in Canada, we had a terrorist attack on a mosque. Now, this is drumming up all types of conspiracy. Originally, of course, two shooters enter the mosque in masks and start firing. That was the original story, and one of the people that was brought in as a suspect was of Arab descent. The other one was Canadian. Well, now they're taking it back, and the only suspect is the Canadian, and the man of Arab descent is no longer a suspect. So we'll see what they try to set this up with, but people are already looking at this as a false flag. And I just want to say this. Justin Trudeau came out and said, make no mistake, this was a terrorist attack. And of course, it ends up being a Canadian national. But if Donald Trump had jumped to that conclusion after a terrorist attack in the United States, they would be all over him, folks. And it's also worth noting that you're seeing CAIR, this Council for American Islamic Relations, all over the news now. The government traced them back to Hamas. This is a report that you can find at the Center for Security Policy. So is CAIR a front for Hamas? You decide for yourself. And here's the joke that the protesters will never know. Saudi Arabian prince buys 80 plane tickets for his pet birds. His pet birds could have been refugees on that plane. Thanks for tuning in to the Infowars Nightly News. Back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central.
In case you haven't heard, Infowars has become the most influential media outlet in America. We're making freedom go viral. And now we are proud to announce a new weapon in the epic battle against the globalists. Infowars Prime, where you can watch live high-definition feeds of The Alex Jones Show, plus exclusive insider videos from the Infowars crew and behind-the-scenes action. Go to Infowars.com/app and download today. Infowars Prime is available right now for your iPhone or Android. You will have access to exclusive videos that you can't see anywhere else. And that means live coverage of events and breaking news on location as it happens. You can also take advantage of amazing deals from the Infowars store that are only available for Infowars Prime subscribers. That's Infowars Prime at Infowars.com/app. And if you can hear my voice, you are the resistance.